In the silence of the night, a cry rang out. Officer Daniel Carter sat in his patrol car, rubbing his hands together to keep warm. It was late, and the small town of Brookhaven was quiet. The streets were deserted, with only a few flickering streetlights casting long shadows on the sidewalk. The radio crackled with static, and then suddenly the dispatcher's voice came through. "Attention all units, be cautious." Suspicious activity reported near the old warehouse on East Pine Street. Possible trespassers, proceed with caution. Daniel glanced at the clock. 11:47 p.m., only 13 minutes left on his shift. The quiet night gave him a false sense of security, but at the last moment, trouble struck. Grabbing his radio, he responded to the call. Twice. Turning the ignition, he steered his patrol car through the empty streets. The warehouses loomed ahead in the dim glow of the streetlights. As he turned onto East Pine, his headlights illuminated something unexpected. 2 small figures running away. Their shadows stretched long and thin across the asphalt, almost as if they were reaching out toward him. Instinctively, Daniel's hand moved toward his holster. But as the figures got closer, he froze, holding his breath. They were children, a boy and a girl, no older than 6 or 7. They stepped hesitantly, their small feet barely making a sound on the cold pavement. The boy, slightly older, clutched the girl protectively, shielding her from the harsh night air. "Help us, please, our mum is hurt!" Without hesitation, Daniel jumped out of the car and knelt before them as they stopped in front of him. His heart pounded as he took in their appearance. The boy's face was smudged with dirt and tears, and the girl's trembling lips were an alarming shade of blue. "Where is she?" he asked, trying to stay calm despite the rush of adrenaline. The boy pointed down the road, toward a house behind the warehouse. "Please, she needs help!" Without wasting another second, Daniel scooped up the little girl in his arms. She was frighteningly light. Grabbing the boy's freezing hand, he instructed, "Stay with me." The urgency in his voice left no room for argument. Whatever was happening, it was bad. And as Daniel sprinted toward the warehouse, following the boy's directions, he had no idea that this single moment would change his life forever. Daniel Carter ran. His boots crunched against the frozen asphalt as he clutched the trembling girl. The boy, though shivering, kept pace beside him, gripping his sister's hand tightly. The warehouse loomed ahead, a rusting structure, its metal siding peeling away. As he approached, an uneasy feeling settled in his gut. This wasn't just some abandoned building. "Mum, she's inside." Daniel kicked open the warped wooden door, and the stench of mould and something metallic, maybe blood, hit him instantly. His flashlight cut through the darkness, a pile of blankets. A faint moan, then the beam landed on a figure sprawled on the floor. Daniel's stomach clenched as he rushed forward, dropping to his knees beside her. A woman, motionless. Her dark hair was tangled, strands sticking to her sweat-drenched forehead. The weak light from the broken window cast eerie shadows across her still form. Placing the girl down gently, Daniel pressed 2 fingers to the woman's neck, searching for a pulse. There it was. Faint, weak, like the fluttering heartbeat of a trapped bird. She was burning up. Her skin was clammy, her breathing shallow and erratic. Behind him, the girl whimpered, clutching her mother's sleeve. "What happened to her?" Daniel asked, keeping his voice steady. The boy hesitated, his small frame trembling. She was coughing a lot. She said she was fine, but then she couldn't get up anymore. She just fell. Daniel's flashlight caught something glinting in her limp hand, a badge. His stomach twisted as he picked it up, the cool metal pressing against his fingers. The name was barely visible under layers of grime, but as he recognized it, his breath caught in his throat. This woman, lying on the floor, barely clinging to life, was his sister. For the first time in 10 years, Daniel Carter saw his sister Olivia, and she was dying. A sharp breath escaped him as he stared down at the 2 children, their desperate, pleading eyes filled with silent questions. "Is she your mum?" His own voice sounded foreign. The boy nodded. The realization hit him like a physical blow. Olivia was his sister, and these children were her kids, his niece and nephew. Daniel didn't hesitate. "We need to get her to a hospital." Scooping Olivia into his arms, he cradled her head against his shoulder. She barely reacted. The boy, his nephew, stood frozen, fear flickering across his face. "Please, don't let them take us away. Don't let them separate us." Daniel met the boy's gaze, and in that silent exchange, a promise was made. "I won't." Without another word, he carried his sister into the night. Two small hands clung desperately to him, as if he was the only thing holding their world together. At the hospital, Olivia was rushed away on a stretcher, wires and tubes connecting her fragile body to machines. "Nurse, are you family?" A nurse turned to Daniel. "Daniel, she's my sister." The nurse glanced at the children huddled together. "Nurse, they need a safe place to stay." Daniel swallowed hard. He was a cop, not a parent. His life revolved around work, his small apartment, and the occasional drink after long shifts. Now he had two terrified children looking to him for protection. "Daniel, I'll take them. Nurse, social services will have to intervene." "Boy, no, please don't let them take us." The boy's voice was firm. Daniel clenched his jaw. "Daniel, I won't." But even as he spoke, he had no idea if he could keep that promise. The legal fight for custody began. Social services doubted Daniel's ability to care for children. More troubling, their biological father, Martin Hale, had recently been released from prison, a violent man, a man who wanted his son back. Daniel clenched his fists over his dead body. As the court date loomed, Daniel faced another battle, earning the children's trust. His nephew Eli was guarded, wary. "Eli, why are you helping us?" "Daniel, because you needed help." Daniel met his gaze. Eli stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. Maybe, just maybe, he was starting to believe. The final hearing came. Daniel won full custody. That Christmas, as snow fell outside, Eli and Maddie decorated the tree. For the first time in years, Daniel's house wasn't just a place to sleep, it was a home. "Maddie, good night, Daddy." Maddie yawned, climbing onto his lap. Daniel froze. "Eli, you're stuck with us now, you know." Eli hesitated, then quietly sat beside him. Daniel, "Yeah, I know, Eli." "I think I'm okay with that." Eli smirked. For the first time in a long time, Daniel Carter wasn't alone. He had a family, and he'd fight for them, always. The end.